is Sahar. I'm a photographer, director, and multimedia artist. In today's video, I want to talk about what I learned about love after losing a parent. My dad passed away in 2021, and through that difficult time, I've been able to grieve and heal and take lessons that I can apply into the rest of my life. As I share my thoughts, I want to flip through a photo book that I created for my mom as a birthday present. Sajida and Maksud are my parents' names, and it's full of memories and photos that I've taken of them, I believe, from 2014 to 2021. I'm a strong believer of documenting your life and your loved ones. As a photographer, it was just natural for me to take all these candid moments. This book isn't representative of their entire life story, but it does have some of my favorite images that I've captured of them. I'm gonna do my best to give it justice. One of the first things I want to talk about is love languages. Now, when it comes to immigrant families and immigrant parents, I feel like it's a whole other world of trying to figure things out. Something I've learned is that just because someone does not show you love in the way that you want it to be shown does not mean that they don't care for you at all. Me being the eldest daughter in my family and one of the first people to go to school and experience life here in Canada, I felt like there was a lot of miscommunication between us. He had certain plans for me in mind that he thought would make my life better. The things that I wanted from him, I felt like I wasn't receiving. For example, he was someone that was very hardworking. He was always out. He was trying to provide, and we struggled a lot. And at times, my mom told me stories of how he would be worried about being bankrupt or having food on the table, but I didn't know that when we were young. All I saw was absence. So another love language of mine being quality time, I equated that to him not having that kind of love that I was seeking. Growing up, I felt like he tried to shelter and protect me very much because he took it upon himself to be the breadwinner of the family, the one who brings everything home and wants his family to rest and not have to work. Or another idea of success would be not being an artist and being someone that can take care of themselves by working an appropriate job. There was a lot of friction in our relationship because we couldn't understand what each of our own dreams was and what each other needed the most. All of this is reminding me of this one scene in that Korean zombie movie called Train to Busan. It's where there's two dads talking to each other about how they're usually going out in the world and they're the one earning and protecting. Their work is not celebrated because it's just expected, and so is the mom that's home. So because we feel that quality time from our mother, and usually in immigrant households, in that they see family complex, they're the ones being home, so you think that they are the ones that love you more. It wasn't until he passed away where a lot of the responsibilities that he had became something that was incumbent upon me, because as the eldest daughter, now I'm here to take care of my siblings and my single mother, take care of the house and everything else that went unnoticed otherwise when he was taking care of it. So for him, even if it was a responsibility for him to work and provide for us because that's the task that he took on, it's something that he never got a pat on the back for because it's something that he was expected to do. And if he made mistakes or didn't do things the right way, there wouldn't really be any leniency or understanding his point of view. Even though there were times where I felt like there were gaps between our relationship, there are other moments that replay in my mind. Memories like him coming home late at night from work and then leaving mini eggs and chocolate bars on the table, and I try to do the same for the little bro. Or when we're going out somewhere, and when I was young, he would reach out his hand from the back of the car seat and then just hold my tiny little hand, and now I do the same with my bro when I'm driving. And it's little moments like that that show his love and affection in different ways. It's just trying to understand that we're all human beings and we're all trying our best, and we're not this fictional character that will provide love and show us love in every way that we want to. I think that figuring out someone's love languages is really about stepping into their shoes and see what kind of person they are and how they grew up. I'm reflecting more on who the person that he was and why he became that way, trying to understand him a lot more. And I realized that, he also lost his dad at a very young age. And I know that grief just takes you whole and makes it very difficult to follow through with anything in life. I used to be really hard on him for some of the decisions that he made to make us happy. For example, us not being in a financially stable place yet, him still trying to give us family trips, and I would have rather that we stayed at home and had that time there, done something else, but He thought that him giving us an experience of traveling to different cities was something that he could do to show his love to us and make memories with us. And something else I realized of the dynamic between parents and children is that when you're young, there's all these memories you have no recollection of. You have no clue how many tireless hours your parents put into raising you and taking care of you and having a whole human being, their first time being parents as well. With my little brother Momin, we have a 20-year age gap, and I do things for him. We're like taking him to school every single morning, packing his lunch, taking him to Dollarama, trying to spend time with him and sacrificing other things in my work. And I'm like, he's gonna have no recollection of all of this. The only way to step into someone else's shoes and really understand them and the way that their mind works and what you can do to best show your love and express it to each other is communication. You need to speak, even if it's hard, even if it hurts, even if there is a lot of feelings involved. And that is one of the other lessons that I learned about love. I learned that arguments are not always bad, and in fact, running away from conflict is worse because you bottle all those feelings up and you're pleasing the other person without really expressing how you feel and trying to resolve and make things better. And that struggle to make things better every step of the way is a never-ending struggle because every single day you're trying to understand each other more. Every single day you're going through these different difficulties or blessings together and trying to navigate life in that way. I learned that if you do not fight for something, it means you do not care. If I never had those arguments with my dad, it meant I never cared about our relationship. If my parents did not care about each other, they would just give each other a cold shoulder and never speak to each other. Never try to say, maybe you should try and be better this way, or this is how I felt when you did this, because it means that the relationship is over. And it's the same in friendships. This is why I hate cancel culture so much, because people are just so quick to end things without trying to make things better, realizing that we're all human and we're so nuanced. Good things take time, good things take communication. Sometimes that communication comes as tears, sometimes you end up raising your voice, but there's a balance in everything. There's that extreme of being violent at one point, but there's also violence from not caring at all and violence from silence. Also, after dad passing away, it was during COVID, so because of that, my family had to be with each other a lot more. We were grieving together, and because we were together more, we had many things to unwind, work on our relationships with each other, me with each one of my siblings, me with my mom. All these new responsibilities and challenges that we had to face that were so unexpected after losing a family member that you love. Through that, I learned the true meaning of conflict and pain and sometimes why you need it. And I don't mean this in that way where it's like if someone slaps you, turn the other cheek, let them slap you on the side. It's more about the struggle to do what you know is good for you, even if it's painful. Like, for example, waking up early in the morning and going to the gym is painful, but it is good for you. In the same way, communicating what you feel is good for you, even if it hurts, even if the other person might be offended by your truth, even if there will be an argument where you really cannot understand each other. If the solution to the first thing I talked about figuring out love languages, was communication, then I believe the solution to having these conflicts and arguments is forgiveness and having an open heart. Be that person to be soft towards the people that you love instead of having a hardened heart. Even in the Quran, there's the verse, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَنْ خَلَقَ لَكُم مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُم مَّوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ لِقَوْمٍ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ. And of his signs is that he created for you from yourselves mates, that you may find tranquility in them, and he placed between you affection and mercy. Indeed, in that are signs for people who give thought. I think the terms mawadda and rahma, meaning affection and mercy, are applicable to all kinds of relationships. And I think in this verse it shows you that it's inevitable for you to have these arguments and little conflicts, because there's no such thing as a perfect relationship where everything is la la land. There will always be little things that you have to push through. And I think that's why it's said that marriage is half your deen, because half your deen is having that patience with the other person, having that mercy for the other person. For you to truly love someone means that you have a soft spot for them and you want to see the best for them. You don't want them to be hurt. These little tiny arguments or disagreements that I have with each of my family members or loved ones is a test of my true love and care for them. One argument doesn't mean the entire relationship is doomed. Another thing that I learned about love is the importance of selflessness. For every relationship to work, there are times where you have to let go of your own desires and what you truly want. What does it truly mean to be a good person that loves another? That you want the best for them and you give them the best of what you have. And spending does not only mean from your money, but from other things like your time or gifts that you give or words that you give. And sometimes this selflessness doesn't have to take a lot of work. It just happens naturally towards someone that you love. For example, it used to make me very upset when my parents would say they're not hungry anymore or they don't want that last piece of food in the plate, or they're like, it's fine, you can have it, because I'm like, you gotta live too, you need this for yourself, try and make yourself happy too, instead of sacrificing everything for me and your children. But now I'm realizing I'm doing the exact same thing with Momin, my younger brother. He's like eyeing something that I'm eating and I'm like, it's fine, like I can live without it, so I just give it to him. After facing a lot of loss, I realized the temporariness of a lot of things, and I don't find every material thing so precious anymore. I find love to be something that is a lot more tangible. I don't care for the independent and individualistic mindset that a lot of people have. I care more about community and giving time to your loved ones and your close family and relatives. So much of this world has become me, and we're all talking about success and self-care, but we don't talk about love towards others when we talk about success. It doesn't make sense to me at all. You can't only be caring for yourselves in order for you to thrive. And truth be told, being that person who is able to let go and give up is so much easier. It feels freeing to be able to let go. I used to be very much a people pleaser, but there's definitely a balance. So everything that I am saying, I hope you apply it to yourself in your own way instead of completely changing everything around. I remember a story that my dad was telling us. He said that he was giving cash to a homeless person. His friends used to pick at him and be like, what if they use that for something that's not good for them? He said that whatever that person chooses to do with their money is up to them, but for my dad to have that act of kindness was up to him. The only reward he expects is from the one who created us and is the one who provided for us in all different ways. I'm learning to have that same kind of act towards everyone else in my life, where if I'm taking care of my family or I do an act of kindness for someone, I don't expect anything from people themselves, and I don't want to be in a relationship where it's only transactional. Living a life where I only care about myself is not fulfilling at all. And as someone who is on a search for a partner, I'm also learning more about the ways that I want to be treated and the way that I want to be shown love. In the video that I shared before of how creativity and writing heals grief, I shared my story of when I found out about when my dad passed away. And the poem that I shared is called Hourglass, and it's a poem with a lot of regret and remorse for not being able to say the things that I wish I could have said when he was here. One of those things being, I love you, just saying it one last time, just letting him know and expressing how I truly feel, not in a quiet way, but saying it loudly through my actions and everything that I do, and not holding myself back whenever I do want to speak. Whatever I did say before was not enough. I have completely changed as a person. I am a lot more giving with my words and the things that I say. I don't care if something is cheesy. If there's a friend that, I feel very grateful for, I let them know, send them a voice note, give them those gifts, call them, tell them how you truly feel, saying, I appreciate that you did that, or thank you so much for being in my life. Even though it might be overwhelming for others, I don't care. I just want to give all the love that I had, because I'm not going to be here for that long either. I have a finite time on this earth, and I want to be able to give as much as I can before I can't anymore. That's something I wish I could let the whole world know. Give your flowers when the other person is here, and give flowers while you are here as well. Another lesson I learned on a similar note is don't take your time for granted. My dad's death was unexpected. He was 52 years old. I was 24 years old. I believe in perfect timing, and I think there was no better time for this to happen than at that moment. But it has made me become so much more careful, because the people that you love will not be around forever. One day or another, you will lose someone, something, your parents are growing old. They will not always be in your life. With my mom specifically, I realized I should have more quality time together, go on brunch dates, go shopping, just sit down with each other and be in each other's presence no matter how busy you are. And that's something that I'm still working on because I'm balancing so many other things in life, not just like getting so used to it where they're on the sidelines. It's like, oh, I live with them anyway, so I'm already spending time. No, you need quality time. In general, I'm someone that has learned to celebrate little things in life a lot more. I never used to be that person that celebrated New Year's, little occasions here and there, but I take all these little moments as time to celebrate, try to make something more out of life. I romanticize life a lot more and it makes things more beautiful. Another thing I learned is all those precious moments and celebrations that you have in life are not always going to be apparent to you when you're looking at someone else's relationship. Looking as an outsider of my parents' relationship, I saw all their ups and downs, and there are so many moments that I learned about my parents after dad was gone. My mom would share all these moments that they had between them, and I was like, why didn't you guys tell me about this before? All the love that they had for each other is something that I find very beautiful, and I'm realizing the importance of telling your stories to others. I know a lot of people talk about evil eye and keeping your relationship hush, but showing that love exists in the world and love exists in relationships around you. I don't know, I've sort of had a different approach to the way that I think about it, and I think it should be told instead of all these scary stories that we hear all the time. This is why we love movies. What about real life examples that give you more hope or seeing the world in a different perspective? I feel so grateful to have been able to hear about my parents' love story and who they are outside of their character as a parent and a caretaker. One of the stories my mom told me about was the day that I was born and how every single one of our family members was in the hospital, and when my mom was holding me in her arms, then my dad came over and kissed her forehead, and it was such a sweet moment that I've never heard about in my life before. This is stuff that I knew about when my dad was here as well, but I never really talked to him about it, more so my mom, but she told me stories of how they first started to get to know each other, and my mom would be very shy when he was giving phone calls. And oh my god, crazy story, guys. My mom was supposed to get married to someone else, but that did not work out. And then my mom married my dad, and the other dude that my mom was supposed to marry ended up setting his wife on fire. Anyway, I was thinking, the thing that pains me the most is all the memories that we could have made if he was still here. I could have learned more about him. It also taught me not to judge other people's relationship and what they're going through based on what you see, because there's so much more behind that story. Like, you could see someone who's all happy and loving and caring on social media, or they're always perfect whenever you have gatherings, but then behind closed doors everything could be upside down. Or the opposite, where maybe someone is, always like picking on each other. Okay, not always, that's not the healthiest, but you know what I mean. But then behind closed doors, they're a lot more lovey-dovey. On the topic of judging other people's relationships, something else that I learned about love is gender roles and what it means to confine within them or try and take another route. So looking at my parents' relationship, it was quite traditional. My dad was the breadwinner and my mom was the housewife. It's a very sensitive topic of the woman being the one that stays at home and taking care of everything, and then the husband bringing the money. Of course, it can go to extremes where the woman is not allowed to work at all. But something that I did notice is that if someone chooses to go down that path and have a traditional relationship to take care of her child when she's pregnant or taking care of the kids when they're older, and if that's something that works for them, then leave them alone. Not every single relationship and dynamic at home has to be the same as each other for things to work out. I used to find this way very backwards, but as I'm getting older, I'm realizing the importance of it and why it might work for others. So with my mom being a single mother now, she's literally working 2 jobs, taking care of all her kids at home. I see how much of a struggle that is for her. She's taking care of everything and being this like one person machine, but you're not meant to do things alone. You're meant to do it as a community. You're meant to work as a team and a partnership. You do things where your strength lies. If you are a person that is judging someone for the way that they work their relationship or being completely closed minded of the way that things can work, I think it can be quite snobby. Instead of having so many expectations of the other person, you find a balance of what works for you. It also reminds me of this quote from a movie that I saw. I think it's Piku or Piku. Western culture is not a benchmark of progress. One of the last points I want to mention on lessons learned about love is on an individualistic level. If you are not loving yourself and taking care of yourself, your cup won't be as full to give to others. All that pain, if not healed, will carry into your life and manifest itself physically in different ways that you wouldn't expect. If you are not careful to heal your wounds and every way that you've been affected with the traumas that you faced, there is a risk of hurting those that you love most, so the people that you have in your life right now, and also the people that you will meet in the future. Self-love isn't always going to look like getting enough sleep and using face masks, taking those baths, but something very painful where you have to face all your flaws and deal with them and try to change, and change is not always easy. I wrote a poem a couple of years ago. I'm reminded of one of the lines that I wrote where I said, I wanted to shut out the world, shut the door by mistake, sorry if it slammed in your face. Meaning, like, it sounds cheesy, I'm sorry. Meaning that I was in so much pain that I isolated myself. So I closed the door off to everyone else, but in closing it so abruptly is loud and violent and still hurt others. And the things that you need healing for is not something that you'll always be aware of. Sometimes the things that you need to work on are not apparent to you. That's why I recommend getting therapy. You really need to do the inner work. I finished a book called What Happened to You. It was so good, guys. It talked about the connection between the mind and the body and the interconnectedness of mental and physical health. It talked a lot about how unresolved trauma can manifest itself in the body and through physical symptoms. So there's not only that work that we have to do of everything that we experience in this lifetime, but all the trauma that is carried down through generations into our body. Me being in this Pakistani household and family, my idea of love is based on what I received and saw in my parents' life, and what they had was seen in their lifetime as well. You can trace back our ideas of love and everything that we have been through generations and our ancestors. And it's crazy because I'm talking about like history going all the way back to who knows when, but if you think about partition, which was in 1947, that was only 77 years ago. It has not even been a century. The trauma that our grandparents experienced during British colonialism and 70 years ago is still apparent on generations right now and everything that we are experiencing. It is in our DNA. I'm also reminded of a song by Palestinian-Canadian singer-songwriter Nemesis. One of her songs, Chemical Mark, also talks about how trauma manifests itself physically and how it can never really leave you. Her song was inspired by a specific study of how stress can leave a chemical mark on mice, and that chemical mark ended up still being in future mice that were born, even though it did not happen to them specifically. She was explaining it on stage. I was just sitting in my seat in awe, because what the heck. And that just reminds me that we're talking about past trauma that is leading into our generations now and affecting the way that we think about love. But what about the people that are going through it right now and how much they need to heal? There is so much work that needs to be done. I don't want to inflict the same pain, misunderstandings, miscommunication onto future generations and be one that is taking part in whether someone believes they should be loved or not. If hurt people, then why would you be one to hurt yourself the most, to isolate yourself, to not take care of yourself, to hate yourself so much to the point that it affects everyone around you? And it's just a cycle that goes around of hatred and feeling like you don't deserve love, and then affecting the other person. Those are all the reflections that I wanted to share with you guys today. I would love to hear your thoughts below and what lessons you might have learned about love or what resonated with you most. I also hope you enjoy the photos that I took, and I urge that you do the same as well. I hope we all find the love that we deserve. Until next time, sincerely, Seher.